And I call the Honourable Member for Werriwa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise in this grievance debate to represent the interests of my constituents who are participants and carers under the National Disability Insurance Scheme. It is these people who are worse off because of the government's plundering of the NDIS budget for the purposes of a marketing line to bring the budget back into black. What this perverse marketing ploy fails to realise, however, is that taking $4.6 billion from the NDIS has left thousands of Australians without access to products and services they need. Last week I held a forum in my electorate with NDIS participants and their carers and loved ones, with the members for Maribyrnong, the Shadow Minister for the NDIS and Government Services, the member for Dobell, the Shadow Assistant Minister for Carers and Mental Health, and the member for Macarthur. Unfortunately for some, the term participants is a misnomer. The systematic under-resourcing of the NDIS has left them frustrated and devastated, looking for a way to support themselves and their loved ones. It was tragic to see so many people affected by the disaster that this government has created by running the NDIS into the ground. Waiting on the phone, endless review cycles to prove the same information time and time again, funding packages that are inconsistent and unfair from one person to the next are just some of the key themes that the participants have told me over the past 4 years. One of my constituents is a quadruple amputee. He needs prosthesis to give him the ability to hold his son's hand to walk to school and work in a job that's fulfilling. He needs digitalised fingers and home modifications, the applications for which have been subject of continual delays while waiting for decisions by the NDIA over several years. And to add insult to injury, he must prove every single year he still has a disability. It's ludicrous. Sadly, this is not the only situation I've seen. One of my constituents who came to the forum has a 13-year-old son who must get around in a wheelchair due to his disability. He needs car modifications to transfer his son between home and school and family events. He also requires either adjustments to the existing wheelchair or a new one so that his son can be more independent at home. His dad had to move him around using a manual wheelchair that was far too small for his son. It's taken the NDIS 2 years to make a decision. My constituent's son has a life-limiting illness. So therefore, these delays could cost this family 1/5 of the time he has left. Time that could have been spent outdoors at family events, seeing the country and making memories with his family. Bureaucracy should not deprive participants or their families of the best chance in life. This, Mr Deputy Speaker, is how the current shortfall in the administration of the NDIS is affecting participants and their carers, and it's not how it should be. Review periods are blowing out, placing people in an indefinite cycle of decision-making at the whim of the NDIA. In fact, even when trying to call the NDIS hotline to talk about these issues, participants are facing grossly inadequate service standards. The NDIS was created so that individuals and their carers could take control of their support and make meaningful decisions, but that does not seem to be happening. Everyone is being pushed into the bureaucratic matrix and given a certain level of support, regardless of what they actually need or even what they are at times looking for, and particularly when they have complex, multifaceted disabilities. One of my constituents contacted me recently about his 20-year-old twins, Seth and Stan. They have the same underlying medical diagnosis, yet one twin, Stan, has received more funding than Seth, the other twin. One would think on the surface they should at least receive the same funding. What's worse, all the evidence submitted by the family shows that actually it's Seth that requires more support than his brother. This is absolute madness. In one of the rare attempts to personalise the care, the person who requires more funding receives less. The purpose of the NDIS is to provide the hundreds and thousands of Australians with significant and permanent disability the opportunity to live a full and fulfilling life. Like so many other important Labor reforms, it's about ensuring all Australians, regardless of background, social status, disadvantage or their postcode, are able to be the best person they can. Labor government builds great reforms the great reforms of this nation for the benefit of everyone. Examples abound: Medicare, access to tertiary education, the NBN and the NDIS. Coalition governments neglect and destroy them in favour of playing favourites and picking winners. Another case in my electorate is infrastructure. Since the Industrial Revolution, cities and economic hubs have developed around transport hubs. In the 1800s it was rivers and ports, in the 19th century the railways, and for the 21st century it will be the airports. An aerotropolis with industries like aeronautics, advanced manufacturing, logistics, supporting gate-to-plate agriculture and e-commerce fulfilment. World-class road, rail and telecommunications to support Liverpool and Campbelltown will provide far more efficient workforce and a better quality of life for all residents of Werriwa. That's why it's critically important to the success of the Western Sydney Airport and the Aerotropolis that world-class transport links are built and built now. The South West Rail Line extension from Leppington through to Western Sydney Airport provides the quickest and most cost-effective solution. The land corridor is preserved and would easily and quickly connect the airport to Liverpool, Campbelltown and the rest of Sydney via the existing rail network, and also provide a direct link with Western Sydney Airport and Kingsford Smith. The north-south rail link from Western Sydney Airport to Macarthur would not just benefit the airport, but provide much-needed public transport for the entire southwest growth corridor. As with a rapid transit link along 15th Avenue from the Liverpool CBD to the Western Sydney Airport. The southwest of Sydney is one of the key growth areas of Australia and is on the cusp of realising its economic and cultural potential. And despite being a key growth area, home to the Western Sydney Airport, do you know how much money Werriwa received from the Urban Congestion Fund? Nothing. To the north of the electorate, the marginal seat of Lindsay received millions of dollars from this government. Is this the next rort we're about to uncover, the road rort? Vital infrastructure must be funded and built, linking Southwest's major population centres such as Liverpool and Campbelltown to the airport and the Aerotropolis from day one. And part of that is the development of the M12 motorway. I note the New South Wales Government's assertion that the M12 will be toll-free. But for westbound commuters, the only planned entrance for the M12 is through the existing M7, which is a tolled motorway. So this is in fact tolling by stealth. It's another portrayal by the New South Wales State Government, who now have a long list of saying one thing before an election and another after. The second is the RMS questionable traffic modelling. Modelling assumes by 2036 the M7 will have 3 lanes between Camden Valley Way, Old Wargrove Road and 4 lanes between Old Wargrove Road and the M4 interchange. This is despite no commitment to construct these additional lanes and no modelling, meaning this project is based on false and flawed assumptions to ensure there is no gridlock at the M7 and the M12 interchange. Lastly, and of most concern, is the proposed location of the southbound off-ramp onto the M7. The location would take the road above and across the ridgeline at Cecil Hills, exposing an entire suburb to light and noise pollution. This will have a devastating effect on the amenity of residents, not to mention a huge blow to their property prices. I've launched a petition and the local community has reacted strongly to support that petition already, despite only being available for a couple of days. There were 4 community consultation sessions held, but they were well away from the suburb which is most affected, the most densely populated area affected by this project. Furthermore, all the glossy brochures and promotional videos obscure from view the part of the project that encroaches on the suburb of Cecil Hills. As with most things that come from the state and federal Liberal governments, this short-sighted proposal only concerns itself with the next electoral cycle. The Western Sydney Airport is a once-in-a-century project that has the potential to transform the region through employment, education and economic opportunity. The projects must not be hamstrung by short-term electoral prospects and penny pinching to the detriment of current and future generations. If the government wishes the Western Sydney Airport to be a success, it needs to stop playing politics with it. No point in committing millions of taxpayer dollars without the infrastructure that goes with it. I call on the government to fund the required infrastructure properly and promptly.